Hi, everyone. Our webinar today is called Effortless VDI DaaS Migration, Navigating EUC Choices in 2024. Today, we've got Jason E. Smith, VP of Alliances and Product Marketing with Liquidware, and Matt Boyajian, Liquidware Subject Matter Expert and Senior Solutions Architect. Jason, you want to get us kicked off today?
Yes, thank you, Kristen. Thank you, Matt, for joining us today. This is a new webinar from Liquidware, and the state of the industry is in flux, we feel like. So it's a good time to talk about how easy it is to move from one platform to another because many people are experiencing fear, uncertainty, and doubt in the market. So let's get started. Some of the changes that have happened recently in the industry, I just wanted to touch on many of those. So I'm going to walk through these looking at platform by platform, but in the last several months, there's been many changes. Amazon Workspaces, for example, if you missed it, you can now run Office 365 locally inside of an Amazon Workspace. Now, they were saddled with not being able to do that before, and I believe you can do it with Workspaces Core too. So if you're running other VDI platforms on Workspaces Core, I believe you have access to that too. That gives you new options out there if you're on a different platform. So it's one to consider. Broadcom has now invoked the plans to spin off their EUC unit of Horizon, and we found out here just a couple of weeks ago or less that the private investor KKR plans to buy that. So that's in progress right now, and it's put VMware Horizon and their EUC unit in a little bit of a limbo time frame. Of course, being one of the two top platforms, they probably haven't suffered too much negativity in the market, but people are still wanting to know what are my options if I don't agree with the direction that any other platform is going, not just this one. So a lot of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And Citrix, to recap, is having a rebirth under Cloud Software Group because they had been acquired and rolled together with another company called TIBCO into the Cloud Software Group. And they are being managed a little differently than in the past, and they've made some significant changes with their licensing that they've pitched as great things, and their customer base they're looking at their options. Do I want this licensing, or is now the time to check out to make sure I've chosen the right platform? Of course, Citrix is a stalwart in the industry, and it's like the old saying, no one ever got fired for using IBM, used to be, and that's the way I kind of feel like most people think about Citrix these days, is they're the leader in the market for a reason. But Microsoft Virtual Desktops is also coming on board in a serious way with advances in AVD continuing, especially also Cloud PC with Windows 365 giving you that second option there. And it's maturing in a way that we've seen it picking up some of the low-hanging fruit of VDI and DaaS in the past, maybe those environments that had only a few apps, but now we're seeing advanced use cases like healthcare considering it. Even in the last few months, we've had many of our customers that are saying they're on one platform. They said, now's the time we're going to start checking out our options and seeing if AVD might be able to handle our use case, our specific use case in there. And of course, a lot of times Nerdio gets put into the mix of that too to help manage those two options even in an easier way. So that's where I would categorize Nerdio is coming into the market, and there's many people considering such a combo for an enterprise. And then this is sort of a roundup of some of the other players in the market. DigiFrame, of course, that was Nutanix. Now it's DigiFrame, and they're a separate business unit. And their independent business unit there went to Digion. HP Anywhere, WorkSpot, Parallels, and LeoStream as a broker. This leaves you with a lot of options out there as the industry has changed really drastically in the last couple of years and leading up to this year, where people are seriously looking to make sure that they're on the right platform, if not just kicking tires of another platform to see if it is ready to go, if they could switch because of licensing changes, maybe price increases of different versions of these stacks. I'm not picking on any one of them. We're alliance partners with every vendor you see on this screen. It's just that we know that there's a lot of uncertainty, and we are somewhat Switzerland when it comes to this. We help customers move to the platform that they want to go to, and with Stratosphere, we can help prove out which platform might be a better platform for them. There's other things in the market that are moving very rapidly that are causing the shift, and those include Windows 10 is end of life soon, and it's a few less days than this actually. So this is close, but I grabbed a quick screen capture there. Probably now it's down to 1 year, 7 months, and 5 days in a few hours. And then delivering applications is also causing people to look at their overall infrastructure and the way that they're delivering their desktops to see if App V being end of life and not being able to have support for that in 2026 may cause them to rethink about how they're delivering those applications. Do I still need full isolation like I did with Windows 7 and with earlier versions of Windows 10, or some of these apps ready to go and I don't need isolation in many use cases anymore? And that's a case for, we'll get to it in a minute, but with FlexApp. These are some of the headlines that back that up that I pulled even from last week of Windows 10 and the drastic shift that you're going to see in the market. You know, with hardware alone, you see these that there a lot of Windows 10 devices are not even compatible with Windows 11, and that could cause a lot of shift in the market and need to have big projects. So what I'm really getting at here is the challenge is that enterprises today, just like many of you that are here on the webinar today, are facing many of these things, I'm sure, and I probably left a few out. You know, you've got work from home angles in there too. That do you really have what you need to support all these users out there, and many other things that have happened in the market. But these are some of the reasons why people are shifting. So at this point, I want to take a quick survey, and then we're going to follow this up with a part 2 of the survey, right here, a poll, and we're going to ask you, what VDI or DaaS multi-session platform are you mainly on today? Now, you might have more than one of these, right? But just pick the one that if you had to skew it one way or another, that you have a few more seats of one or the other, and choose one of those and let us know what that is. And we're going to show you these data and results in real time here, and hopefully it's going to back up the findings of the rest of this webinar. We asked these questions on a separate webinar a month ago, but we had even more attendees today, and so we wanted to re-ask these questions to get more of a sampling. So check off one of those boxes. We can't really move the screen until you do, so please participate with us. Check off one of these boxes, which one you have the majority of today. You only pick one, I believe. And Kristen will move along to the second survey question when we get us when she sees the responses have come in adequately enough. All right, great. So what we've got here is the results. Citrix and VMware, unsurprisingly, really leading with this. Kristen, let's remember to take a screenshot of this so we can use it for other things. Matt, if you'll take a screenshot as well, that'd be great, just to have 2 backups of this, because sometimes in the recording these don't pick up, so we want to play this back later. This will be recorded today, but save it over to a separate file, if you will, and we'll make sure we get it into the recording.
Done.
Citrix, thanks. Citrix and Horizon really leading here. No surprises there, but we're starting to see ABD come on stronger. So let's move on to the next question. And the next question is going to be now this calendar year, or say 12 months from now, I believe, well, maybe we say in 2024. Does your organization plan to switch platforms, or at least are you kicking the tires in a serious way of another platform in 2024 to switch from one of what you answered previously to anything else, really? We're trying to gauge movement in the industry here and get a big sampling. We appreciate your participation in here. Kristen, do we have this poll set up right on this one? It should say yes or no, right?
Yes, it is. It's a yes or no question. We have 72% of the people have participated so far.
Oh, good, good.
Okay,
I didn't see the yes or no part in my
you.
panelist view, so.
Okay. People are doing a great job. We've got 74% participated, so I will go ahead and end the poll.
Okay.
Oh, they're still going. Sorry.
Matt, grab a screenshot of this too. We probably should have got the question too on the other one, but that's okay. The more important thing is the result when we do the recording.
Yeah, I'm not allowed to vote, and I can't select an answer.
Okay. All right.
And we'll share the results.
Ah, interesting. This is a little different than last month, but we're almost statistically split 50%. That's still a huge move. 45%, 45 statistically, we're almost 50%. 1 out of every 2 listeners here plan to switch, or are they kicking the tires or something else? That is a pretty big thing. If we were to ask this question a few years ago, I would guess that it would be a lot less than that. So there's big movement.
What I find really interesting about this, Jason, so the VMware Horizon population has dropped significantly since the last time we ran something like this, down at 34%. And I would venture a guess that the majority of the people who plan on switching are part of that percentage. So there's a lot of turnover in the industry right now and a lot of changes in the industry right now. This is more than we've ever seen before. And I find that remarkably interesting given everything that's going on right now.
Good point. Good point. But the data is still similar than last month. I think last month when we asked this on a separate webinar, we had somewhere around 60% saying they plan to switch. But statistically, it's almost back in line with 50-50. So that is a big move. Think about that. 1 out of every 2 accounts roughly is looking to make a change in their platform this year, or at least kicking the tires. So I think this webinar is poised at a good time, and we're going to now start to walk you into some of the ways that you can do that. We, quite frankly, Liquidware was innovated in 2009 to take advantage of change in the market. They help customers and partners with change. And by partners, I mean consultants out there that help customers, and our channel partners that help them with provide solutions that can help ease the change into another platform shift. We like to call ourselves desktop transformation. I was looking at the Liquidware sign behind me, which you can't see because it's blurred, but it says adaptive workspace management, right? And that's because we help you adapt at every logon to whatever is new. And some of these milestones that we took the industry through and customers through was even at our launch, VDI began to mature and Stratosphere UX led in the assessments area. We also added Profile Unity that year, and it's almost laughable now, but that was still XP, end of life. And we helped customers move over to Windows 7 throughout that. The next year, Windows, the VMware and Citrix really came up with, started being able to push non-persistent, but there was still solutions needed to bring the persistency back of a desktop. For example, Persona. And the profile tools at the time were not up to the task, and Profile Unity stepped up to the plate, and that's where we still lead in user management. Application delivery was rethought too, and FlexApp entered the scene in 2012 from us. Windows 10 was released in 2015. We helped many customers start to move over to Windows 10 from Windows 7, giving you a 0 downtime. Literally log off of one machine and log on to another. And the user persona would come over, and you could also manage the baseline and monitor it with our Stratosphere solution. In 2020, the work from home, work from anywhere, where VDI and DaaS grew overnight in many organizations. A lot of cloud desktops were turned on within a few weeks, like thousands and thousands and thousands. And we helped a lot of our customers transfer people working from in an office to being able to work in the cloud very easily. Because again, you log off of one desktop, as long as you're hitting the same network, you log on to the other, and everything will be pulled through, and the user's off and productive when they're as soon as they get their new desktop. And in 2022 and 2023, EUC is a healthy market, but and I want to reiterate that the EUC is a healthy market. It's not a dying market. We see there's research that shows that aggregate growth of EUC should grow at 10% a year at least for the next 10 years. But Citrix and VMware were both those two companies were both sold in that time frame from outside market forces in some ways. Maybe there was a panic button hit from AVD coming online or other things, but very healthy business units were both sold, and then this fear, uncertainty, and doubt started to move in. And of course, we have other options in there. And then Windows 11, of course, is coming on, and we've already mentioned that. Cloud PC is growing as well as AVD. And you definitely have new options as we've reiterated. But these are some of the things that we've helped customers come through. The graphic here on the right, if it looks like an AI graphic to you, it is. I asked AI to give me a graphic that said, you know, the winds of change are hitting the EUC industry. And that's what I thought it was an interesting graphic. Matt, do you have anything to add to that?
No, man, you've pretty much nailed it.
So let's talk about the things that can help you uncouple from your desktop platform. Again, we have no horse in the race when it comes to platforms. We help customers move from wherever they are today to wherever they're going. As long as it's a Windows desktop, we will help you in that move, right? We're strong partners with all those alliance partners that you've seen today. But when DEX is siloed, the digital employee experience, and by the way, that's more than just monitoring the desktop, right? Liquidware is in this business of helping you manage DEX with Profile Unity, deliver DEX with our applications, and then monitor it and then control it with Stratosphere and then our command control solution. But when those types of things are siloed by a free tool that was added into your platform, and VMware has them, Citrix has them, some of the other platforms have some basic tools in there that provide some of those things like a profile and things like that. The profile then is controlled and it's locked to the platform to a degree. They may say that they support outside and third parties, but they have no vested interest in helping you log off of one to another. So in a lot of ways, those are proprietary profiles. They're built to mostly, if not completely, work with that platform, and they're locked. So if you wanted to move a user today from one of these major platforms to another, that user is going to experience pain. You're going to experience downtime. But if you have these things managed at a different level, and you know where I'm headed with that, you'll have a seamless change for that user. Applications are also that way too. So there's layering options from some of these big vendors. There's whether they call them layering or dynamic applications. They're also tied to those platforms, if not tied to the licensing of those platforms. So if you do application packaging based on an application tool to containerize applications, you are getting locked into that platform if that's the main platform that it works with, right? And so you end up with proprietary applications, the most important real estate that you have other than user authored data in an environment. Once it's locked to a platform, it makes it very difficult to move to another platform just to switch because prices went up, because you don't like the bundles, or because you don't like the innovation that's going into a platform stack. And then
Jason,
all of the, yeah.
Can you give us a couple examples of some companies that do that?
That do what? That lock people in?
That do exactly that. Application layering that binds you to a specific platform, and now you can't go anywhere else. Who does that?
If I had to pick on anyone, even though they're an alliance partner, I would pick on App Volumes from VMware. Now, Applications Anywhere is their strategy, so they do plan to support other platforms, but you would have to, again, license that separately, so you're not totally locked in there when you do that. But again, you're mostly into a VMware stack that way. Did you have anybody in mind?
No, you pretty much just nailed it.
You had to put me on the spot, right?
It was, but the thing is that it's a lot of this is really just bubbling up right now with what you mentioned at the beginning of this meeting, which is fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I know we have a lot of customers who are talking to us lately who come to us and say, look, I have App Volumes. I have no idea what's going to happen over the next 6 months. I have no idea what's going to happen once the KKR split happens. Are they going to support other platforms? Are they only going to support VMware? Am I going to lose anything that I already have? And when you're putting all your faith and your applications inside of one platform that's currently in jeopardy, that's scary. And I think that speaks volumes of why 50% of our client base that we're looking at today is thinking about switching platforms, because realistically, they have no choice. Management doesn't like risk. And a big part of our job, especially in the DEX space, is managing the risk of users, managing the risk of platforms, managing the risk of what we move to next not being supported. And right now, App Volumes is a very big risk. So we see a lot of customers coming to us saying, hey, look, we need some guidance. What can you recommend to us that has much less risk? And Jason, you said earlier that we are like Switzerland. I'm going to talk about how we are like Switzerland and how you can minimize that risk.
Absolutely. If we get to the third leg here about monitoring decks, so we talked about managing decks, we talked about delivering it with applications, but when you are bundled in with monitoring decks in a platform vendor, at the end of the day, most of those you can consider those tools. They're not a purpose-built, in-depth solution that can go down to a PID process level, right? And then who's monitoring my VDI platform? My VDI platform is monitoring my VDI platform. Can I trust the data? And so you get into that, like it's the fox watching the hen house. Do you really trust the data that you're getting out of this? And is there limited data coming out of it and things like that? So it's always good to have a third party monitoring the stack. And of course, Liquidware does that. You could easily see where I was leading with this, is that we have solutions in every single one of these areas. Remember I said DEX is far more than monitoring. It is managing that DEX with something like FlexApp, where you actually manage the digital employee experience with Profile Unity. You can get in there and you can talk about how it's delivered, how their persona is delivered. It can work with something like FS Logics to provide business continuity and disaster recovery when those corrupt. We can refresh those. But the persona is about so much more than the profile itself, right? Profile Unity unifies the other parts of the of what comes out of the operating system to take what is actually the estate of that machine tied to the user and unifies that under Profile Unity. Their user profiles and their settings, all those things that come out of the profile, and there's limitations in the profile. So with FlexApp, we're delivering decks, and we do all these things. So we're delivering applications that are decoupled from your underlying platform. Look at the bottom of the screen. We work across any virtual cloud or physical device. Now that's a real apps anywhere strategy. I think you'd agree. Can you work offline? Are you really decoupled from the platform? That's apps everywhere and anywhere with FlexApp rather. All these solutions work across any virtual cloud or physical. And then you have Stratosphere UX coming in there to monitor the decks and optimizing it. So it can optimize it to get many more years out, or at least another year out of your PCs, your physical PCs, because we optimize PC RAM as well as CPU to get another year of service out of those for our customers. And then we also monitor those at an in-depth level. And then it is now working hand in hand with our latest solution, our real-time remediation solution known as Command Control, which controls decks. So you've probably heard from, and so you can remediate and troubleshoot in real time with Command Control. And it's got innovative features in there you won't see out of competitors, like a DVR. You can go back in time, troubleshoot things earlier. You can correlate two machines real quick and say, nope, it's not the thin client, it's not the laptop, it's the cloud PC, or it's the Citrix session that's causing it. And you can look at those with the flip of a switch. And it's also got integrated AI today. Not we're going to have AI in a few months, but it has integrated AI today. And then that way, the first entree that we have into there is being able to look up processes just by simply hovering over the process. And we've got generative AI bringing in what that process is about, so you don't have to look it up. And that's just our pinky toe in the water of AI, but we're helping deliver an AI integrated solution now. So you've heard about DEX from some other vendors, but have you ever heard about them having a full DEX suite of solutions like Liquidware has? Been able to actually manage DEX, deliver DEX, monitor, and control DEX? No. And we offer the most DEX coverage in the industry with what we do across all types of desktops. And therefore, you're decoupled. You're really decoupled from that desktop. So it's not too late. It's not too late to start decoupling today. And that's really the main point I want to get across here. If you're on a platform that you think you may be making a switch in 6 months to a year to 2 years down the road, start managing these things at a third-party level that is purpose-built to work across any future platform, and you'll be in a much better situation as you start to have your applications that work across those, the persona work across those. Log off of one machine today, and then in seconds log on to another machine, and you've created a zero downtime scenario where users can remain productive. I have a couple other things I want to get through, and we want to make sure we get to the demo that Matt's going to lead. So how do we do these things? We can stage your current desktops in the cloud. That's because all of our solutions are compatible with cloud storage. And basically, when you log off and log on to another to create the zero user downtime, you leverage cloud storage from your vendor of choice. Again, open vendor of choice. And when the user logs off, let's start on the left-hand side. Anything you're running today might be a legacy, is going to be a legacy desktop sooner or later, right? Even if you're running Windows 11 today. It's going to be a legacy desktop one day. But let's just say this is Windows 10 and you need to get over to Windows 11 on a different platform. As soon as the user logs off, user data the user data starts to be synchronized. User profiles are saved up to the cloud, and then their applications that were already in that environment are stored in the cloud, and they're always ready to go as soon as you log on to a new desktop. Okay, all these things are kept separate. They're not siloed. They're in a cloud of your choice. Data would be in a personal type, or could be in a personal type of a cloud drive, such as the ones mentioned at the bottom there in that cloud, and at the top, the bigger clouds may be where you save your user profiles. They're where you save your applications for FlexApp. So now
Hey,
when
Jason,
you yeah, go ahead.
we just had a question come in. If you won't mind, I'd like to tackle it real quick. One
Sure.
of our guests asked if we offer support or optimized RDP protocols to ensure consistent video and voice performance in a VDI environment. And the short answer to that is we are not a connection broker protocol. So we're not the equivalent of Horizon or Citrix or things like that. What we do is we extend and enhance those kinds of things. Whether we're talking about ICA or PC over IP or Blast or RDP or FrameHawk or any of the protocols that are out there, even Nutanix Frame Dism protocol. What we do is within the Stratosphere product, we monitor all those different things. So I can tell you about latency. I can tell you about frames per second. I can tell you about jitter and packet loss. So I can say, hey, if there's an issue with the client's connection, or I can start to see trending where there's a problem during certain times of the day, I can go and isolate that and fix that. One of the other things we do is Jason brought up optimization a little while ago, and optimization can be done on the virtual machine. And one of the things that we see as a DEX and user experience company is a lot of times when machines are incorrectly allocated or really, really messed up, what winds up happening is your CPU gets so busy it can't process the protocol anymore. We will automatically optimize that machine so the protocol is given priority. So while we don't directly actually offer a protocol itself, we can make the protocol a whole lot more efficient, make sure the machine's more efficient, and guarantee a better user experience. So Jason, sorry to hijack.
Yep.
It's all you.
No, it's good. Thanks for addressing that one as it came up. The point here, you can almost, this is a great diagram from our graphics folks. As soon as you log on to the new desktop of choice over on the right, all those same things are pulled down from the cloud. They're not proprietary. They're not siloed. So what are we looking at as an option here? And if I'm a customer like many of you on the phone, on the webinar, is that you're looking at, well, wouldn't it be faster just to rip and replace? There's not a chance. If you're delivering your applications this way and everything else, and you're going to rip and replace every 12 months because of an OS change, or you want to change platforms, it's not going to be more efficient. You're going to have to repackage applications to a different vendor. And then you're going to also have to rip and replace user profiles, and it ticks users off, possibly lose user authored data that's not properly saved in the cloud. And then you're not going to have a way to baseline these and manage them. So, and it's not a one-time thing. That's the thing. This cycle is ongoing, as you saw earlier. So yeah, rip and replace once, and it's going to be more painful than doing this even once. But think about how many customers we've helped since 2009 through all those shifts. User profiles continue to be split. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because you're going to see in Matt's environment today, he can log off of any machine with any user profile version number and then onto another. And in seconds, that profile is compatible. We can take a FS Logic profile, by the way, and remediate it. So it becomes multiple profile version compatible, at least to bridge those between FS Logic stores. So again, compatible with tools out there in the market, but we make them so much better in a lot of ways. So the user profiles continue to evolve over time, and it's going to continue to be a challenge. Matt, I want to really this is part of the assessment phase, but if we don't jump to the demo here shortly, we're not going to have time. But Stratosphere can help you with these compatibility reports. Here we've got a Windows 11 compatibility report at a glance. You can see which machines are going to be ready to go. Can they run Windows 11? Do they comply with the TPU and all those other things that are necessary? And then TPM, TPU, did I say that right? You can see an inventory of application usage here. So you need to know what applications do I need to bring over to my environment. So we can give you an inventory of applications, but we can also tell you which ones have actually been used. So then you start with a short list and you talk about FlexApp, or you look at application readiness, and Remo 3 is helping us out in there too to give you an application methodology. Matt, I really want to jump to that demo if you're ready.
Yes, sir.
We want to have time for plenty of questions too.
Could you terminate your sharing, please?
Yep.
There we go. All right. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, or good morning for most of you. My name is Matt Boyajian, Senior Solutions Architect with Liquidware, and today we're pretty much just going to go and play. That's one of the best parts about this is I just get to go and play in toys during these webinars, and Jason has the hard work of going through all the slides and explaining where everything is in the market, and we're just going to go and play with some shiny new things. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to jump into my environment. My environment's pretty simple. It is a Hyper-V environment running Profile Unity and FlexApp. And the first thing we're going to do is jump into a Windows 10 session. So this is nice and basic, something that pretty much everybody has nowadays. And the reason we're doing this is because I want you to see what my life is currently like. So when I jump into a Windows 10 session, what does this exactly mean for me? So we can see that Profile Unity is giving me a lot of customization here. I've got my desktop background. I've got my icons exactly the way I like them. And if we start really digging into this machine, we're going to find what looks like a machine that's been modified for almost a decade. So if I jump into places like my documents, you're going to find gigs and gigs and gigs of stuff that I've been scrolling away for years. I'm kind of a pack rat of data. And if we start messing around in places like the registry, we're going to find exactly the same thing. So I have lots of customization, not only in my HKey local machine area, but my HKey current user area. And what you're not going to find in here is any form of corruption. Because what we're doing is we're putting a lot of safety rails around the profile to make sure that it stays corruption free. One of the things that Jason mentioned is that if you currently are using FS Logics, we can go and rehydrate and recreate and migrate disks and do all kinds of fun stuff there. If we have some time, we're going to play with that a little bit today. But the reason that we're allowed to say, hey, look, I can prevent corruption, I can guarantee that this profile is not going to get broken in its current state, is because of how our structure works. So if I go and navigate over to where my profile is currently stored and go over to my profiles and go to Matt, you're going to find all these different little pieces that make up my profile. Most of them are pretty basic. So I have my desktop and document are available as redirected folders. I can redirect any folder out of desktop that I want to. But I've also got a backup of my profile. I have portability, profile disk, and Teams. So what is all this? Well, portability is what the core of my profile is. So we found, as we saw on Jason's slide earlier, that if we carve up the profile into around 35 different pieces, most of these pieces are compatible with any version of Windows that's been released in the last 25 years, amazingly enough. So third-party application settings, that's my HKey current user software. App data, that's my app data area. Certificates, Edge Chromium settings, Google Chrome, cookies, favorites, history, the list goes on and on and on. And the whole point is that each and every one of these things has multiple stages of corruption detection and also has compression and CRC, cyclic redundancy check. And it's also got a hashing algorithm bound to it as well. The hashing algorithm does two things for me. It says, hey, do I have the latest copy of the profile on here? And the second thing it does, it says, is this object corrupt? And it's really easy to just go and hash something. And if the hash matches, it's not corrupt. If the hash doesn't match, oh, excuse me, I have that backwards. If the hash matches, it's not corrupt. If the hash doesn't match, then it is corrupt. And I can go into my backup directory and go and restore those pieces. So we're giving you a very hardened, agnostic, and fault-tolerant version of the Windows profile. And that's a big deal when you're talking about migrations, because garbage data in, garbage data out is never more true than it is within your profile itself. So I want to make sure that everything here is done 100%, because all these things, this intellectual property of my settings and my documents, this is my industry's lifeblood. This is my organization's lifeblood. I can't just forget about it or get rid of it. Now, the other interesting thing that we have here is that every application that I have bound to this machine is delivered via FlexApp. So you can see I have about roughly 110 applications, and every single one of them has this little FlexApp parentheses FlexApp job at the end of it, indicating that FlexApp delivered it for me. Now I have all these things in the start menu, but the start menu really annoys me. So I'm going to actually go over here to my FlexApp shortcuts, and I'm going to use this instead. So what we're going to do is run through a bunch of these apps and talk about why they're a problem. So some of them, like 7-Zip, had things like right-click context associations, and then I have applications like FileZilla that will go and update things constantly, which is super annoying. I have GomPlayer, which uses DirectX for high output video for playing all kinds of cool stuff like that. I have Google Chrome, which is going to eat up all my memory and require constant updates. And I have a lot of apps that I just simply use that are just weird because I'm an engineer. I use weird apps. I do it all the time. And that means that I need perfect compatibility between my operating systems in order for these things to work. Whether I'm replacing the Windows copy handler like TerraCopy does, or maybe I'm replacing the Windows print screen functionality the way Greenshot does, or maybe I have two applications that don't like getting along, like OpenOffice and LibreOffice, which, yes, I know, I keep forgetting to recover my documents. Leave me alone. And I want these applications to coexist on the same machine, and I want them to do so in a way that doesn't slow me down and doesn't stifle my compatibility between the things that I actually work with. And FlexApp's doing all that for me. So the end result here is, as a result of having this modular profile and having these modular applications, this means I have a lot of freedom. And that freedom is to support a complex organization. And my organization internally, my tiny little lab, is kind of like a smidge or a representation of what you guys do. So I have a lot of weird stuff here. I have Windows 10 as my mainstay. That's what a lot of my people use. But I also have Windows 11. And on top of that, I have different variants of Windows Server. So what does my life look like when I'm also connecting into all those other different machines at the same time? And the answer is, it shouldn't be any different. It shouldn't change. It should be exactly the same regardless of what I'm doing. So if I run Windows 11 instead of Windows 10, what is my user experience like? Well, aside from the fact that I have a different user experience inside of Windows 11, it's exactly the same. I essentially have the same desktop background, I have the same icons, I have the same documents, I have the same everything. But Windows 11 being Windows 11 will nag me about stupid stuff like this from time to time. So we're just going to answer some of these questions and just step through it. But other than that, my experience is identical. So when I go and navigate into things, that's exactly what I should get. I should simply just get my documents and they should just work. I should get my registry and it should just work. I should get all the applications and features that we talked about before, and they should simply just work. Doesn't matter what it is, it should function the way I expect it to, whether it's Paint.net or Chrome or Microsoft Office or anything else. So in addition to this, I also have a server environment. One of the things that Jason brought up a little earlier is that we can help even if you're using another existing profile solution. And I know a lot of our clients use FSLogix because Microsoft said, "Hey, this is great. This is free. Go take it." And people standardized on it. And once they started standardizing on it, they realized something really, really difficult, which is it's kind of an on-off switch, isn't it? It's either on or it's off. It's working or it's not. And there really is no in between, which means that if anything happens to that disk, and that disk can be huge, your goose is cooked. You got to essentially just delete the whole thing and start from scratch. But we said, why does it have to be that way? Why can't I use things like the Profile Unity portability engine and FlexApp to bolster up that disk to make it work better? So inside of my server environment, we will notice one thing that's a little different than my other systems, which is number one, I'm going to get Server Manager because I haven't turned it off. And number two, I don't have a desktop background the same as my others, do I? That's because this is a server. I turn that off. I have that level of control in ProU. But in this case, I'm using all of the above to generate this environment. So I have Profile Unity, I have FlexApp, and I have FSLogix all on the same machine kind of working together. And you can see here's my FSLogix profile right now, and here's all my FlexApps below that. So let's do something terrible. Let's do something horrible. Let's go and simulate what happens during an FS Logix crash and see what happens in my environment. So I'm going to just turn this machine off. I'm not even going to be nice about it. I'm not going to shut it down gently. I'm just going to turn it off. And let's say that we just restored our snapshot. And then to make things even worse, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to destroy that whole FS Logix disk, because why not? There's no reason not to. So I'm going to go to computer management, which is managing my share for that FS Logix disk. And I'm going to look for that share, and we're going to go find a whole bunch of them. So here's all my FS Logix stuff. And we're going to close those open files. And now we're going to go over to that share. Good. And we're going to go and wipe that thing out. So here's my FS Logix. Here's server 2022. We can see it was just used a couple of seconds ago. And we're going to say bye-bye. We're just going to delete the whole thing. So normally those two things together, a server crash, a server start, combined with an FS Logix disk corrupted plus getting wiped out, those two things are catastrophic to my users. I can't really recover for those because most of my VHDXs from my FS Logix disk, they're too big to fail, meaning I can't back them up when they're 40, 60, 80 gigs and they're constantly changing. That's an amazingly expensive backup. So usually we operate those without a tightrope, meaning they are what they are. But in this case, what I can do is I can rehydrate that disk. So this time when I log in, notice that FS Logix took a whole lot longer to run. Why? Well, it was just recreating my disk from scratch. So now I have a blank disk. But now what's going to happen is Profile Unity is going to seed all that information into that disk for me. So then I still keep all my stuff. So notice that my icons are still in the place that they were on my desktop. And more importantly, if I start poking around inside of my profile and looking at places like my registry, we're going to find all that customization that I had before is back. It never went anywhere. So we literally rehydrated an entire FS Logix disk in a matter of a few seconds. So these three machines represents a complex environment, my complex environment, where the applications and the profile and the operating system are all three modular entities that I can pull out and push in like puzzle pieces. But that's kind of difficult to get to, isn't it? So how did I get here? How did I get to the point where all this stuff is now part of the way I run? And the answer is I got here through Profile Unity. And what Jason was alluding to before is that we need to make it as easy as possible for you to get to this panacea of modular entities, because that means that later on when we go and migrate, that's going to be super easy, isn't it? So the first thing we need to do is we need to give you an easy way, a stepping stone, if you will, to get to a place where I can make these profiles agnostic. And the way that we do that is with strong templates that are built into the tool by default. So if you want to push directly to the cloud, as Jason mentioned, I can choose a template for that. If you want to have the method that I just showed you, where we have profile disk combined with portability, we have a method for that. If you already have FS Logix in your environment and you want to bolster that and migrate to the cloud, that's fine. We have a template for that. And the whole point is it doesn't matter what you choose here. I need to give you an easy way to migrate it. And the easy way is to ask you a series of very simple questions like, where do you want this stored? What would you like me to do with your GPO? Because we use a GPO to fire up our agent and make all this stuff work. And finally, where do you want me to store the agent? Once you've answered those three questions, you're done. That's a deployment. That's a complete Profile Unity deployment. In fact, everything I showed you so far with the 3 OSs and the FS Logix redundancies and all that crazy stuff, all of that was just in that one template that I just built. Well, then what do you have to do? Well, then you have to compartmentalize your applications. And that's easy as well, because we have the ability to use FlexApp packaging consoles to convert your existing applications into FlexApps. But better yet, we also have automation, which means I can stand up a FlexApp automation console and say, here, this is my repository of applications. Go convert that into FlexApps for me. No human intervention required. And once I've done that, then I wind up with something like this. I have all these applications in my environment that I can go and deploy. Yes, that is Doom 2016 in there. We were just messing around to see if we could do it. And the answer is yes, of course we can, just like everything else. We have a 97.6% application compatibility rate. And even with this laundry list of applications, it shows, because these are difficult applications. That's what we specialize in. So when I utilize automation to go and convert all these things for me, now I can go and push them anywhere I want. And I can go have all these modular entities the way that I want. Why does all this matter in the case of a migration? Well, in my migration event that we're going to go through right now, it matters more than anything else because I'm going to choose something fairly difficult. I'm going to choose AVD. So you can see I have a number of AVD machines inside of my environment. They've probably got these weird IP addresses and they're running or stopped or deallocated. And I'm not going to pretend I understand all this AVD stuff because I'm not an AVD engineer. But what I am is someone who meticulously plans the way that I can go and set things up before I migrate to them. So I've used my Profile Unity template. I've used my Flex app deployments. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to just migrate directly into an AVD system. So here's my AVD box right here, and I'm going to go and connect into it right now. I'm going to use the same AD credentials that I used before because, well, I'm me, and I wanted to see all those things. So what I wanted to do is I want the same work to be done before. I want portability to bring into my profile. If I'm using FS Logics or if I'm using Profile Unity, Profile Disk, I want all those things to work. And most importantly, I want all my applications and all the customization and all the things that we dragged along before. That stuff should simply just go along for the ride. And what are we seeing so far? We're seeing exactly that. I have my desktop background with all my weird stuff on it. I've got my icons and the places that they are. I did not have Teams before, but suddenly I have Teams. Why do I have Teams? I didn't have Teams. And the reason I have Teams is because this is just a standard AVD machine. So we can see right here, this is Windows 10 Enterprise for virtual desktops, and Microsoft pipes all kinds of things inside of the image that's a little bit different. And I need to coexist with that. So even though my old environment, I didn't have Teams and I didn't have some stuff built in, this thing has got all kinds of stuff built into it, doesn't it? I'm seeing Microsoft Office built in here, and I'm seeing the game bar built in, and all the applications that I saw are now coexisting with this complex deployment. So in essence, what I just did was I migrated from 3 different monolithic operating systems to a modular profile and application set in my environment. And then I went and took that and I forklifted the whole thing over to AVD in about 10 seconds. And the same methodologies that we looked at earlier apply here. So I can go and destroy an FS Logics disk and recreate it instantly, or I can kill the VM and bring it back up and not care because my profile is being stored. But what about the data? How did my data get here? And the answer is the data can get here any way that you want. In the case that I have here, I implemented a really simple exercise, which is the storage that I'm using to share my profile is accessible by both AVD as well as my environment. So when you have a trusted relationship or a trusted connection between your environment and another connection, it's easy, just stick it in one storage place. But there's no limits here, meaning that I can do things like a DFS namespace with replication between 2 targets, which by the way is a best practice. Or I can use a combination of this plus Azure Blob, or I can use Azure Blob as a backup, or I can use it as a primary. Again, to steal from Jason, we're Switzerland. We're not going to force you to do anything that you don't want to do. We're going to give you lots of options so you have the ultimate freedom to do whatever it is that you want. And as a result, when I go into this system and start messing around with my documents, hey, look at that. Everything's still here. When I go into my registry, I find exactly this. Whoop, if I could type correctly. If I go into my registry, we find exactly the same thing. All that massive amounts of customization that I have for all my different applications, that's here as well. But most importantly, every application that we took a look at before is also present inside of the environment. So I literally just forklifted about 110 unique applications from a complex 3 operating system environment into AVD simply by logging in. And all the same stuff that I had before just works exactly the way it's supposed to. So that, ladies and gentlemen, was the bulk of what I wanted to show today. Obviously, if you have any questions during Q&A, I will do my best to answer those. But with that, we're going to turn everything back over to Jason to start us off on the close process.
We did get a question. I'll switch the screen share back over to my deck for some of these questions. But
sure.
The question was about the FS Logics restore and all that. And when we do our storage, does that just double the storage? That's the question.
Ooh, that's a good question.
So I've now got an increased cost and I've got double storage, or how does that work?
So the way that we're going and rehydrating that FS Logix disk is by utilizing what we call the portability engine. And when we were messing around with the portability engine a little bit before, and we had this profile that's bound to mat. So you can see these are all the different parts of my profile. And usually what I do is I like to take redirected folders and push them outside of the FS Logix disk. Why? Well, for the exact reason that I just showed you. The disk goes bad, I don't want to lose my documents and things like that. And now it's stored in the clear, and I can use backup tools with it because it's not very big and it's single files. That's great. The core of your profile, though, is a lot more complex. But you'll notice that in this case, my portability engine is not nearly as big as my FS Logix disk. So let's go take a look at that real quick. So my portability engine right now is backing up my profile in around 75 megabytes. My freshly restored FS Logix profile is going to be a lot bigger than that. So if we go to server 2022, this is certainly not 75 megabytes. It's at 160. And as soon as I launch something like Office, it's going to grow exponentially with OSTs and PSTs and all that other crazy stuff. So why is there such a difference between my portability engine and the FS Logix disk? And the answer is we're not going after caches. So the portability engine excludes things like the Firefox, IE, Java, Chrome caches. And the reason we do that is because the core of your profile cannot be replaced, but caches can. All I have to do is launch Chrome and it'll be rebuilt, or IE or Firefox or anything else. So when I go and rehydrate that disk, I leave the caches behind, but I bring in the core of your profile. And as a result, the payload of this is, even with a really complex profile, only a couple hundred megabytes. So the answer is no, you do not need to double or triple your storage. You only need to earmark about 1 gigabyte per user for the core of their profile, combined with whatever size their redirected folders are, and that usually is a couple of gigs. And when you do that, first of all, your FS Logix disks are going to get smaller because you're no longer storing documents and things like your desktop inside of them. But the other thing is, when that disk gets destroyed and recreated, all the noise and the junk and the stuff that we don't want to be there goes away. So this is really a nice double-edged sword. We're not asking for that much more in terms of storage, and if you follow this methodology, you'll actually wind up saving a bit too.
Yep. Good answer. We got another question. So
Sure.
the question is, what has to be installed on a new AVD system to get this up and running? And the answer, I'll let Matt have the bulk of the answer, but I also want to say that FlexApp, we have an innovative way of delivering FlexApp called FlexApp 1. So there doesn't have to be basically any added architecture at all. I'm going to share out a barcode in a little bit, and you'll be able to run FlexApp 1 containers on any Windows machine. You can even deploy them to AVD without anything else needed. So that's FlexApp. But for Profile Unity and the full version of FlexApp and everything to run, I'll leave that answer to Matt.
So all you need is the Pro U agent.
Could you, if we want to switch the slide, when we want to switch the slides back over to my deck, I need you to stop your sharing, by the way.
Yeah, that's fine. I was just, after we're done with Q&A, I'll give it back to you. But the short answer is all you need is the Pro U client. And I actually didn't install this. Active Directory did. So when I joined this machine to a domain, the group policy for this organizational unit, when the machine came online, installs the Profile Unity client. So when I said all I have to do is log in order to get this to work, that's all I had to do. All I had to do is log in. Everything's automated. It pulls down the applications for me, and I'm good to go.
Yeah, that's if you're hitting, because as Matt pointed out, Profile Unity hooks off of a GPO, right?
Correct.
So you need to be in the same, am I using the right thing? It's been a while since I had my own lab. As long as you're hitting the same AD or active AD, if you get that in there, you're good to go.
Yes.
Right.
So if you remember, one of the things we did when we were going through the templates is the templates asked us where we want to bind this to in terms of the location. And I was using a shared location. And it was also asking, where do we want to bind this to in terms of a domain and an organizational unit? That was for the GPO, and the GPO in turn installs the agent. So as long as I put that AVD system into the OU that has the GPO, I don't have to install everything. It's all automatic.
At first login, it says this person's in this group, suck this agent down real quick, and you're off and running.
And that's exactly what we just saw when we did the migration. So it looks like a magic trick. It's not. It's just very careful planning.
All right.
All right.
Questions
Any
are
other
slowing down a little bit.
questions?
I can share out.
Cool. All right. Then I'm going to stop sharing and give this back to you, Jason.
All right. I'll share out a couple of slides and show you how you can also get a demo of FlexApp 1. Grab some containers to run even in seconds. We're still taking questions, so you keep questions coming in if you have any. But we've got this out on this website. I think it's 9 FlexApp 1 containers. There's Slack out there. There's Teams out there. There's Inkscape. A lot of them are open source, so we didn't have to worry about licensing on them. They're either open source or they don't have to be licensed. So you can download those and try them right away. So this barcode will get you there by scanning that to get to your phone, but you can also send that barcode to yourself. Once it's on your phone, you need it on your laptop, right? So if you scan this barcode, you'll at least have the URL to get you to that landing page. You can also Google real quick anything, any keyword you see on this FlexApp and cup of coffee. You'll end up on that page, and you'll be able to put in your email and some basic contact information, unless you've been on our pages before and this is an email. And you can download a FlexApp 1 container. It's already packaged, right? Applications have to be packaged to be become a FlexApp, but we've already done that work for you, even though that's easy. And you can double click on it and you can run it on your laptop. You do need admin rights on your laptop to do it, but you don't. There's a way around that in a production environment. Just to get the Liquidware service down to the endpoint pre-populated, then you don't need admin rights for any other FlexApp 1 package unless the app itself needed admin rights.
Hey, Jason.
So, yep.
If you don't mind, we just had another question come in from Andrew Staley, who just said, are large applications streaming on demand down to devices with a placeholder icon, or the applications in effect containers mounted to the device? And this unfortunately is a complicated answer. The answer is yes. so we have multiple methods for you to choose in terms of delivering a FlexApp. The method that Jason's talking about right now, FlexApp 1, encapsulates the VHDX, the container in EXE. And you can push the EXE to a system. So in effect, the container is bound to the system. That's method number 1. We also have the ability to mount FlexApps whenever we want. So I can do it on boot, I can log in, I can do it on click as well. So that was your point. Can I just stream in the icon and click on the icon and then mount the FlexApp? Yes, those are all configurable options. There's also a caching entity that says, can I just mount the VHDX? And as I pull down blocks, save the blocks to the C drive. Yeah, you can do that. We can also say, well, hey, can I get the blocks down there before you click on the package? You can do that too. Or can I push every single block down before you even log in? You can do that too. We have that available with a function called cloaking. So there's a lot of options that are available here. This is not like what you would consider app V or SVS or ThinApp to be, where I have to stream down everything all at once or be beholden to the way that they want you to do it. We give you options because that means that the best options are going to be met with your organization's configuration. So even if you have a complex config, we can help you make the best of it.
Great. I also noticed that on that coffee cup itself, there is the URL you need. info.liquidware.com/FlexApp.
Almost like it was done on purpose.
Yep. Got another question, don't we? What's the process of maintaining the app? Security concerns and apps need to be updated, or just the process of how you would work with FlexApps?
So the answer to that is you can use FPA, FlexApp Packaging Automation, to update the apps for you, provided you combine it with a repository. One of my favorites is using Chocolatey, because that way we can basically say, hey, has this copy of Google Chrome been updated? And if it has, automatically pop it up. And you can do it with Winget, you can do it with Ninite, you can do it with anything you want. If you have more of an enterprise-centric approach, where you have to vet the apps before they're updated as part of your security process, then the answer is you can either update or recapture the application. It's entirely up to you.
Great. Any other questions? Let's see. Got a nice thanks, got a nice cheers from Andrew. Any other questions? Okay, Kristen, you want to bring us home? Thanks.
Yes, will do. Thanks so much, Matt Boyajian and Jason E. Smith, and thanks to all of you for joining us today. If you have any future questions, we can be reached at sales@liquidware.com or marketing@liquidware.com. Please reach out and we'll get right back to you. We hope to see you next time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.